Hello, perfume lovers. Don't worry, this video will not be about a push-up bra. This video will be about the brand that is famous for its lingerie, and it's called La Perla. This is an Italian brand, and they have decades of being known for their very beautiful, delicate, feminine lingerie. They celebrate femininity, sensuality. I hope you're getting ready for Valentine's Day and for your sexy time. And let's see what La Perla perfumes are about. I really like the way this set is organized. It has pictures of the bottles, and it goes from least intense to more intense perfumes. Initially, I wanted to make a video matching every fragrance with an outfit from La Perla, but unfortunately I was not so much inspired by this set, and there were only very few perfumes that I really liked. Overall, I associate the brand with some lingerie that is your second skin that has a very soft touch. And I will begin with one that I really associate with this brand the most, and it's called Invisible Touch. The style of this perfume is really true to its name. And the image that I have in my mind is beautiful silk sheets of ivory color. And of course, you're wearing also something very transparent, delicate, silky, and you're just rolling in your bed. You open your window in the morning, you have a little bit of sunlight, and you have the smell of freesia and peonies entering your room. This might not be the image of everyone's sexy time, but I think you can find something attractive and sensual about it. So the fragrance is actually really interesting and playful, despite that the level of its intensity is very low. And there are many notes that you can recognize in here. And it is just so beautifully blended. Freesia and peonies are not in here, but this is what I get for about an hour of wearing this fragrance. And at the same time, I feel some powdery touch and a little touch of cleanness. That's why I was referring to sheets. And usually I really hate aldehydes, but here this touch of aldehydes is really invisible, really delicate, and even gives some charm to this fragrance. But the main secret of this perfume is in its base, a modern musk that is called Sorrento. This musk is really one of the best synthetic musks because it's very soft, very comforting, yet it's sexy, and it is known for its alluring aphrodisiac powers. How does that sound? And I could not even think that such a light, transparent fragrance could have my saliva going. And usually this is the effect that is caused by ambergris. So believe me, there is some hidden sexiness in this Invisible Touch. Invisible Touch has something citrusy about it as well, but it's mostly a floral perfume. And if you're a lover of citruses, there is something for you that is called Villa Sorrento. And that is supposed to awaken the memories of Italy, and specifically Italian citruses. There is some juiciness and freshness in this fragrance, but to be frank, to me, it's a bit boring. I'm just not a lover of citruses, but if you are, try it out. The next fragrance is in the same style as well. It's light, very close to skin, and this one is featuring iris, and it's called My Day. Something that amazed me about My Day and Invisible Touch as well is how they managed to have a delicate fragrance but to incorporate ylang ylang in it. Ylang ylang is usually a perfume that I associate with amber perfumes of the 80s that are very intense and rich. Here we have a beautiful, light, airy perfumes that feature ylang ylang in such a different and new way. My Day is an easy kind of fragrance that you indeed can wear every day. And its complexity is just in little nuances. There's a little bit of spiciness, a little bit of a citrusy touch, some dirty earthiness. The flowers are not overly sweet or overly bright. Sometimes it's neroli that pops out. Sometimes you catch a little tuberose somewhere. As an iris lover, I would not say that this is a perfume that is iris-centered. That's how it's advertised. But it's a really lovely floral bouquet that I personally really appreciated. The next perfume was a very big disappointment for me, and it's called About That Night. This one is very close to the famous designer fragrance Libre by Yves Saint Laurent, but I would say that this is a bad version of Libre. I have a lot of respect for Libre. I think it's one of the best designer fragrances out there right now. Unfortunately, I don't have the original version, which I prefer. Libre Original is really beautiful. And surprisingly, the pyramid did not look very appealing to me at the beginning, but I really liked the fragrance. To me, it's really, really balanced. All elements come out in such a harmony, creating something powerful and really memorable. The secret weapon of Libre is ambergris. Now, of course, this is a synthetic ambergris, which is something like ambroxan, because nowadays we don't use the secretion of sperm whales. I really like how they toned down those modern ambers with the polished and dusty lavender. About That Night is very similar to Libre, but it has brighter, sharper citruses, and it also has an animalic base with ambergris, stronger to make it sexier and more appealing. But in my mind, this is a failure. Making those modern ambers stronger actually created a disbalance, and the perfume is a bit edgy and like a bit more masculine to my taste. But overall, I would say that Libre and About That Night are fragrances that could be perfectly unisex. The only thing is, why would you purchase La Perla if you have a better original Libre available out there for less money? The set has 8 fragrances and only 2 of them don't have roses. However, not every rose in each perfume is very well pronounced. There are only 2 perfumes that have roses that are really in the core of the compositions and are made for rose lovers. And one of them is Once Upon a Garden. This is a chypre kind of fragrance, but it's a modern chypre, very subtle, probably appropriate for a bedroom. And to my nose, it feels like the rose is diluted with cucumbers. It has that nice freshness that indeed could feel like you're walking through a garden with roses. And the greenness of this fragrance feels like you're walking into a flower shop where a florist is cutting the stems of roses. You know that smell of stems of roses? This is also present in here. And of course we have a classic chypre structure, which is a citrusy opening, roses in the middle, and a patchouli base. As I said, it's a bit modernized, and the base has something that I'm not familiar with, and it's called amber tonic. I assume it's a kind of a modern combination of amber, musk, and patchouli, but at the end I think it doesn't really matter if it's ambroxan or patchouli, because the base is very soft. At the end, what you get out of this fragrance is mostly a mix of rose and jasmine, which I think could be appreciated by rose lovers of all ages, but at the same time a lot of people will find it boring and a bit expensive, considering that designer fragrances offer many alternatives. Only last year we had 2 designer fragrances that have the combination of rose and jasmine in the center, and I'm speaking about Narcisco Rodriguez All of Me and Dior J'adore l'or, which was created by a famous perfumer, Francis Kurkdjian. So this might not be the first choice for many people. The next rosy fragrance also might be a bit boring, because this is a classical combination of roses and oud. At least that was my first impression. And this one is called Just Give Me Roses. So I was thinking, okay, this one is the most rosy perfume out of all La Perla in the set. But the way oud sounds in here is kind of strange. It's like sour. And then I look at the pyramid and it does make sense. This is again a kind of modern amber musk, often comes with cedarwood and fir resin. Here it's pulled into the direction of oud due to a tobacco note. It does sound like oud, but it's not. Just Give Me Roses is higher on my scale of intensity than Once Upon a Garden. I would rate probably 8 out of 10. But actually this is one of the few fragrances in the set that projects. The next perfume looks like it has lots of roses in it, but it actually doesn't. As a person who dislikes roses in fragrances, I can tell you that this one actually is my favorite fragrance of La Perla collection, and it's called Possibilities. For about 80%, this fragrance is dominated by a note that is called petalia. And I call this note a secret weapon of Quentin Biche. The most famous creations of Quentin Biche are Fleur Narcotique by Ex Nihilo and Dilina by Parfum de Marly. And then there is also Explicité by Ex Nihilo, that is one of my favorite fragrances, and Valaya by Parfum de Marly once again. So what these perfumes have in common that makes them so sexy, attractive, and so popular? And the answer is the note of petalia. Petalia is a synthetic floral note. It's an imaginary flower that combines peonies, roses, maybe lychee, also lily of the valley. This note could be very sharp at times, and very often we add rhubarb in the pyramid that is frequently disliked by some people. I really like those fragrances that I have mentioned, but the problem I've always had with them is the level of intensity. The level of intensity is 9 or 10. And for me, this is too much to wear in the inside setting. So these are the fragrances that I don't wear very frequently, and I only wear them outside. So having possibilities in hand actually makes me think that this would be a perfect fragrance, a perfect version of Explicité in my bedroom. Because this one is much softer, is not disturbing, it doesn't cut your nose through, but it maintains its sexiness and playfulness. Considering the price, I would not call Possibilities a dupe, but it definitely is a sort of a copy or variation. The pyramid of possibilities absolutely makes sense from the top to the bottom, maybe with the only exception of Akigala wood. The base here is again a modern amber musk type of base. Not too soft, but it's not too standoffish. So overall, I would say it's a really nicely balanced fragrance. But despite that I enjoyed it, I'm a bit disappointed that such brand as La Perla has to take a path of copying other perfumes that are out in the market instead of creating something unique. And the last fragrance that is probably the most intense, Let the Dance Begin. The pyramid here is really overwhelming. There are so many notes that anyone's nose can get lost. But as always, I just rely on my own senses. From the beginning, I identify this fragrance as a spicy, aromatic, sweet amber with a lot of complexity that only women of certain age can appreciate. I would never call it a perfume of an old lady. It doesn't sound like a grandmother. It's pretty modern. But I would say this is a kind of fragrance that a cougar lady would wear, if we put it in a boudoir language. I personally really like it, and the main note that I'm getting in here is actually chocolate. This chocolate is spicy, there are some exotic herbs in here. I definitely get cinnamon and patchouli, and I get something strange that makes me think of iodium. But it's a sweet iodium. Nonetheless, I really like this fragrance, but the problem that I have with it is that an hour later, most of the notes, they just get pushed out by that modern amber that sounds like a combination of amber, musk, cedarwood, patchouli. So the base actually becomes more prominent. So I kind of start disliking this perfume at the end. I would say that this was an experimental way of creating new sexiness. And this sexiness was not so much new. It was more of a do-over of known elements, whether these are synthetic flowers like petalia or roses or other floral compositions. The only one that I was really interested and curious about is Ylang Ylang. But most of the time, this sexiness was created with the experiments of the base elements. I particularly enjoyed finding Sorrento in the Invisible Touch, but I did not enjoy so much pulling out and making stronger the base with modern ambers and masks. I personally like these elements to be toned down, but some people like them brighter. So it's all just a matter of taste. Well, this is it with La Perla. What are you wearing this Valentine's Day and especially this Valentine's night?